Hey guys, it's Max. Yes, this is another My Thoughts video, this time on the 2016 newly announced MacBook Pros. Now, for you guys that are waiting for some really deep content, the XT2 review is almost done. It's very detailed, and I think you guys are going to really like it, similar to the A6300 review that tons of people liked. So that's going to be out, and the 5D Mark IV review. We're really hustling to get those out to you guys. But I want to talk about the new MacBook Pros. Now, I've been waiting for this update for couple years now, honestly, and Apple just kept doing incremental updates. And this 2015 MacBook, they put in a new graphics card, but it really wasn't much more powerful. A little bit better in Final Cut and actually worse in Premiere. A couple little updates, but a couple generation old processor. So we've all been waiting for this. A ton of people are waiting to upgrade their old MacBook Pros. So here are my thoughts on Apple's announcements and the updates they've made. Now, I have actually ordered one. My wallet is not happy right now, or my bank account isn't. Quite expensive, but I ordered one that's very similar to this $2,500 unit. Now, it is more expensive, but it's got the 16 gigs of RAM, the 512 gig SSD, and it has the best graphics card. So this unit here has the best graphics card, and the newer one actually has an updated model. So I'll be comparing them to see how they compare to video editing, if it's worth for you guys to upgrade just based on the video editing. So Apple released two MacBooks, and they're basically the same as all the leaks. The leaks were very, very close to what came out. You could say identical. We just didn't have all the specs. So yes, they look a little bit different. So one, they're missing the ports that are here. So this has 4 USB Type-C Thunderbolt 3 ports. So those ports are very, very flexible. And in fact, the 15-inch with the best graphics can handle up to 2 5K displays. And those displays can power the built-in display. So that's super, super impressive how much that graphics card, the higher end one that comes in the model that I ordered, could do. So no longer do we have a SD card slot, which is unfortunate. I don't think they needed to take that out. There's enough space there. So you are going to have to be using adapters or readers to be able to use your SD card. So that definitely was a good thing that I liked, to be able to have that in there. So you don't have the MagSafe charger anymore. You're using the USB Type-C, so you don't have that magnetic connection. But with the new displays that they announced from LG, you can literally use one cable to plug in, and then plug in your RAID device, any other storage, let's say if you have a wired keyboard and mouse, if you have some speakers, all your accessories could just be plugged in. You come in, you plug in your MacBook, and with one cable you're charging, you're getting all that data connected. It's very, very convenient, and even if you're gonna have to work with some adapters, those ports are fantastic. So, and another thing I wanna test out is if you're running Windows, there's the external graphics card units like the Razer Core or some other brands, and I wonder how the gaming is going to perform. So the CPU is great in there. So what if you come in, you plug into the dock, plug into a different monitor, or use the same monitor, and you have a 1060, 1070, 1080 plugged in, and under Windows now you're getting awesome gaming performance. So I'm going to see if I can get something like that working and testing that out. So if you're new, make sure to hit that subscribe button. The actual laptops themselves are thinner, they're lighter, and they're smaller. Now this is a welcome thing for me, and I want something smaller. I can deal with this size, it works great, but having something that's lighter and smaller and thinner is more convenient, especially after using that 12-inch regular MacBook that my wife has. It's so nice having something thin, but I would only accept that if the performance actually improved, and it has. So you have that smaller size, you have twice as large a trackpad that's more responsive, you have the keyboard that has a newer generation of the butterfly keys, which I guess we'll see how it feels like. If it doesn't have as much travel, it doesn't feel as well when you're typing. You can't get used to it and still type accurately like I did, so I'm hoping it's not going to be too big of a difference, but the keys are more even, they're larger. The touchpad, like I mentioned, is twice as large on the 15-inch model, and close to twice as large on the 13-inch model. And on top of that, you still have your headphone jack. I was happy to hear that. I thought maybe they'd pull that out and use a USB Type-C, put a connector in there, because everybody's buying these new headphones. If you have an iPhone, you're buying new USB-C or Lightning headphones. That was what I meant to say. And you can't use it on anything else other than your your Apple iPhone 7. So they didn't do that. You still have the headphone jack, but it's on the opposite side, which is a little bit weird because if you're using a mouse, now you have a cable dangling when you're trying to move your hand around, your mouse around, instead of having it on the opposite side like we did before, and it's just not really getting in the way. The display is updated as well. They said it's 67% brighter, 67% better contrast. It's thinner and it uses less power at the same time. So Apple's constantly pushing their display tech. Like the iPhone just uses a standard LCD display, but the display is gorgeous. The black levels are great. It has wider colors. So it's great for video editing, color correction. And as far as the size, it's 3 pounds and 4 pounds instead of 3.5 and 4.5 pounds. So that's a welcome change. Let's talk about the touch bar. At first, when I first saw it, I was kind of skeptical. Then the idea grew on me. And now what they showed off was really impressive. So depending on which app you're in, you have a lot of different options and a lot of stuff you can customize yourself. So let's say, for example, in Final Cut, the most important thing for me, you can scroll your timeline, you can zoom in and out, you could do those kind of things, and that's going to be really, really useful to me. I'm excited to try it out, and I think this is great. Instead of just having those function keys there, you can customize what you want. It's a lot more useful, so this brings us into like a newer generation with all the apps. So everything they showed off looked great. You have the Touch ID there. I think it's nice. It's good to have. So let's keep going down. It says 130% faster graphics. That's with the higher end model. So instead of just having 2 graphics options on the 15-inch, either the integrated or a dedicated, we now have 3. So actually, I think it's more than that. So if you could just get integrated, or there's actually 3 different GPUs I'll open up right now. But what's most important to me is the highest end model, which is what I ordered on my 15-inch MacBook Pro, and that one has 4 gigs of RAM. Now this is something very, very important because the previous ones all had 2 gigs. So I believe the 650 either had 1 or 2, then 750 had 2 gigs, and then the 370X, I believe is what's in here, also has 2 gigs. Now, if you're doing 4K editing, that gets eaten up right away. So you are suffering on the performance because there's not enough RAM to do the rendering, especially if you're connected to an external display like I am, then it's totally a bottleneck. It's a huge bottleneck. I do a lot of testing of different components for computers and how to get optimization, and that was a big point. So they had to at least go to 4 gig, and I'm glad they did. Would I take 6 or 8 like some of the other laptops do provide? Yes, I would, but I'm glad they at least did 4. So they're saying you have 130% better performance, so over double the performance. That's great because the GPU in the 15-inch version, it's not much of a difference. Slightly better, 10-15% better in Final Cut, and maybe about 5-10% worse in Premiere. We finally have Skylake processors, twice as fast storage, which is just top of the line storage. Apple always maxes what's available. Slightly better battery life on all the models. So even though the laptop is smaller, they're saying speakers that are better. So they're better sounding and they're louder, and I believe them. If you saw what Apple did in the 12-inch MacBook, tiny, tiny laptop, super thin, and the speakers sound better than a MacBook Air. Just really impressive. Apple pushes that to the limit. So I'm excited to check that out. So 2.5 louder bass, 58% louder volume, and twice the dynamic range. Let's go over the configurations now. So overall, I'm happy. One thing I'm not happy about is the 16 gigs of RAM. If you guys checked out my optimal RAM setting, so for Final Cut and 4K editing, working on projects, there is some slight improvement going to 24 gigs of RAM, going to 32. I did not see a difference from 24 to 32, but from 8 to 16, big difference. 16 to 24, there is a difference. So I really would wish, especially with these prices that they're charging, that they would have gave us an option of 32 gigs of RAM. There's no reason not to. At least I don't think so, unless they were limited in some way. The chips that are out now, before 8 gig chip was the max you can get per chip, now it's 16. So that's kind of one disappointment in the performance area. The 13-inch MacBooks, the new ones, now that is the one without the touch bar. So they're doing a model, just a cheaper option, and they're trying to push people who wanted better MacBook Airs or a MacBook Air with a better display. They basically on stage said, hey, we want you guys to upgrade to a MacBook Pro. It's thinner at the thickest portion. It doesn't have that wedge shape, but overall the volume is less and the weight is the same. Of course, you have a better display, trackpad, all that stuff. So it's $1,500 for that, going from $1,300. So they're still selling the older version. The newer version has the performance improvement and actually double the PCI SSD space. So not a bad value, but you're spending at least $1,500, and that's without the touch bar. With the touch bar, $1,800 is the base unit, and both the 13-inch MacBooks, they come with the dual-core processor. So I would not recommend them if you're going to do any serious type of video editing. You want that quad-core, which you need to step up to the 15-inch version. So let's move on to the 15-inch version. Before we had a $2,000 base configuration with built-in graphics. Now that is still available, but it's the older computer, so they didn't lower the price stays the same. The higher ones got replaced with the new model with the touch bar. 2400 is what we're looking at. So that 2400 one does come with the Radeon 450 Pro with 2 gigs of RAM. And that's the one I actually ordered off of instead of going with the $2,800 version that comes with the 512 and the mid-range graphics and with the faster processor. So I'm going to go off of the $2,400 version, and I'm going to show you the configuration that I chose that matches the old model that almost everybody bought for video editing. So here, you have 2.6 gig quad-core i7. This is a Skylake processor, and it's going to be quite a bit better than this. I'm guessing 30%, 40% faster, just because this has a couple generation old processor that they're going from. And so I stuck with the base 2.6 gigahertz that boosts up to 3.5. I didn't spend the extra $300 for the 2.9 gigahertz. I'm not sure how big of a difference that's going to be, maybe a 10% difference based on those. So the $2,400 one comes with 256 gig PCI based SSD, which is faster than the old version. So if you want to get a 512, which I did get a 512 to match this guy up, it's an extra $200. So now all of a sudden we're up to 2,600, and this unit here with a 16 gig, the best graphics card they offered, 512 RAM, was 2,500. Now that comes with a 450 graphics card with 2 gigs of RAM. So it's $200 more to step up to the 460, and that's the one that's 130% faster than this unit here. So I did do that because this unit here is the base model with the best graphics, and that's kind of what I wanted to compare. So going the base model with the 512 and the best graphics. So $2,800 coming from $2,500. So that's kind of the price difference if you want the better graphics card. And if you're spending this much money, an extra $200, which it sounds like an extra $200, but percentage-wise, is that 10% increase in price? And you're going to use the computer for a while. I think it's definitely worth it, especially if you're going to connect to any external displays or be doing 4K video editing. If you're doing 1080, you might be okay, but still, it's worth it in the long run to step up to that. So prices have gone up. And I think this is just first generation. It might come down in the future, but that touch bar is going to increase their prices, and Apple wants to keep their good profit margins. So overall, I'm happy with that. The RAM is faster, but once again, it's only limited to 16 gigs of the faster RAM. Now, you can get up to 2 terabytes of PCI SSD, but going from the 256 gig to the 2 terabyte is $1,400. So very pricey if you need that storage built in, which I don't. Most of my stuff is on external drives when I edit. You could purchase that, but it's expensive. It's going to cost you. So I did the $200 to go up to the 512. I think that's a really good kind of median, maybe the 1 terabyte if you need that much space. So that's my configuration. I think this is going to be the best bang for the buck configuration. If you don't need the space in the laptop, if you edit off of external drives, RAID arrays, stuff like that, maybe save yourself $200, but definitely go for the extra graphics card. So that's the one I'm going off of, $2,800. So that's going to be comparing to this $2,500 model, and I'm going to have a video as soon as I get that. 2 to 3 weeks is what they're quoting. So I'm going to be checking out maybe some photo editing, mainly focusing on video editing, performance, and stuff like that. So definitely subscribe to the channel if you're new. Overall, I'm excited, and I have my order in. I can't wait to get it and to do some testing and let you guys know if you guys should update and what it's like, what the updates are like. So overall, I'd give it like a 4 out of 5 probably on the announcements. I was hoping for a new Mac Pro, but nothing was mentioned. It's been way too long since they updated the Mac Pro. So thank you guys for watching. Subscribe to see some of those videos that I mentioned and the testing that I'm going to do and comparing them. And I'll have those videos out to you guys. And of course, the Fuji X-T2 review that I've been working on quite a bit. It's taken a lot of work, really detailed. So hopefully you guys are going to enjoy that too. So don't miss out on that. Hit that subscribe button and I'll see you guys in the next video.